Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to another edition of Intuitive Angling, and thank you very much for checking today's video out. And if you're a first-time viewer to the channel, welcome to it, and also welcome back to all the regulars. Much appreciated. Guys, today we are going to give you sort of a common sense guide to selecting rods, as far as if you're looking to buy a rod, what to look for so you don't get ripped off and so you're happy with your purchase. One of the things are probably at the top 5 most comments I get on my YouTube videos. People ask me about advice on rod and reels, and it's important because rod and reels are an important piece of bass fishing. So I think a lot of it has to do, or a lot of what I see with rods, when people talk about rods and pros, they talk about complicated stuff, that like specific rod actions and medium fast, medium taper, slow taper, all this type of stuff. And I think it can get confusing. So I sort of wanted to give you guys more of a in a layman's terms, as far as what everybody uses day to day, as far as what you need to look for in a rod. Now, first of all, before we get into rods, you guys hear me talk a lot on this channel about, the cost of fishing being, really high, which it is. But I'll say this about it. If you have discretionary income, or as far as if you're trying to figure out, man, where do I need to put my money at? Probably the number one area you need to consider in putting your largest investment, as far as percentage wise, is in a good rod and reel outfit. Because in bass fishing, there's one thing that can accelerate your success quicker than anything, and that's being a good caster. And having the right setup, the rod and reel setup, is critical to that. And it's critical for proper bait manipulation. It's critical for proper cadence on lures. It's critical to generate strikes, to have the right rod and the right action. So I'm going to give you guys sort of my opinion on that, what it is. So anyway, guys, we're going to be talking about, and I'll say it right off the bat, and I'm going to explain why. I don't want this to sound like an ad, but I want to talk about this because it's what I use. I'm going to be talking about the Megabass Levante series. Also, guys, Baitworks here in Springfield's got a big selection on these Levantes, and I think they had them on sale. And I'll put the Baitworks link in the description here. You guys can check these out here. But specifically over even the brand, I'm talking about the characteristics of a rod from the butt section to the tip. We're going to go over it. Now, first of all, when you're talking about rods, I'm going to hit the camera down a little bit here. When you're talking about rods, guys, you can't underestimate just the simple aspect of feel. Now, you can look through description on rods, and you can talk to somebody from a rod company, and they can give you all the details and this and type of stuff. But ultimately, it's the way that the rod feels in your hand. And the way that a rod feels in your hand is different for everybody. But and there's several different things for that. Now, you can get used to a certain feel of a rod, but a lot of it has to do with, like, how big your hands are, how tall you are, that type of stuff. So ultimately, you have to let how something feels in your hand be a determining factor after what I'm going to go through the head to toe here. First of all, let's talk about when you're looking for a rod, let's talk about the whole handle and the butt section area. Now, this is really an underestimated or an underlooked, or it's not looked at enough as far as how important the butt section is. One of the things you'll notice as far as the quality components in a rod, real quick, is the construction of the reel seat here. Now, I've used a ton of different rods over the past 40 years, and there's a lot of failure in these reel seats here, because what happens, a lot of the components will come loose, your reel will come loose. You want to make sure that this is well built, and there's good quality components that go into building these particular things. It can't be overlooked there. The next thing, guys, is the handle length. And the handle length is another overlooked area when somebody goes to purchase a rod. One of the things about a handle length is you do not want a rod, I don't care if it's a spinning rod or bait caster, we'll talk about the same here. You want to have a rod with a handle length that doesn't knock on your forearm there. And so many rods I see on the market, they have a handle length that runs too far. And what that does is that does not allow you to put the right action on a lure. It's like it'll interfere with your forearm there a little bit. So I like one like here on this Levante, something about 8 to 10 inches long, really good there. Also, if you have a rod that doesn't have a complete either foam or cork grip all the way to it, makes it a little bit lighter. Having a little keeper there is a really big deal that you can put your lure on, so that's another nice little feature there. The next thing with it is your guides, the guides on it. Now there's two aspects of guides. One is the component structure of the guide, what it's made out of. And the next is the number of guides on your rod. Guys, one of the things that you'll find out right off the bat is you need to have a rod that has at least 7 guides on it. I prefer seven to 9 guides on a rod. This gives you a better feel. It allows that line to go through the guides a lot better. And then also, this is a big part of what makes a rod either cost a lot of money or not, is the component. Some of your better guides are made out of titanium, and you're paying for that because you have the lightness. Titanium is a super light material, so when you're doing that, research the component a little bit. But the main thing is you're gonna get a good rod if you've got at least 7 guides on there. That's a big part too. The next part is the action. Now this is what's probably talked about the most in rods. People talk about a stiff butt or fast taper or medium heavy action. For somebody starting out fishing, or if you don't know a lot about rods, don't really pay that much attention. There's 2 aspects of a rod that you got to really pay attention to. Number 1 is the tip flex, as far as how easy that tip bends like that. And number 2 is how stiff the butt section of the rod is right here. Now, there's not like something, or one is right or one's wrong. It all has to do with technique specific. And I'll run through that a little bit here. If you're fishing some type of a lure where you have to have some power to it, like you have to set the hook to penetrate a hook into a fish with, various size lines, but you got to have some power. Or if you're throwing a larger bait, then when that fish hits, you have to really move that fish with power. The power is going to come from the butt section here. So if you're fishing a lure like that, make sure that you've got a nice stiff butt section on there to give you that power. And also, if you're fishing a lure like that, you don't want a tip that's real flexy. You want a little bit stiffer tip on there, because then you're after power. Now, that's on one end of the extreme. If you're fishing light tackle and you're fishing, say, real light line and small little lures, something like that, you may want a butt section that has a little bit more give to it. And then also, you may want a tip that bends a little bit more like that, because a softer tip is going to allow you to cast those light lures further. It's going to allow you to fight that fish better on a light line without breaking it off. A lot of advantages. That's like one extreme to the other. And then everything else sort of falls in between. Your baits, like your spinner baits, your crankbaits, your chatterbaits, your topwaters, you're going to want the right combination of the butt section and the tip stiffness like that. But anyway, that's one of the good things about most rod manufacturers, guys, is they sort of have they've got a list as far as their products go, as far as the line test and the actions, and that's usually indicated. They usually write it on a rod there. But most companies like Megabass, they've got really detailed descriptions in their catalog description of their products that sort of tells you, what lures is going to be best for it. But mainly, guys, one of the things that I'll tell you about it is it's all about feel. It's about what you get comfortable with. Some people are more comfortable with like a 7-foot rod. Some people are more comfortable, if you're taller, like a 7-foot 5-inch rod. If you're a little bit shorter, maybe like a 6/8 is going to work for you good. So it's number one, it's sort of like a golf club. It's got to feel good in your hand. But a rod is an investment, and like I said, if you can spend a little bit more money in one particular area if you're fishing, I would highly suggest it going to the rod line. So anyway, guys, I'll put the Megabass Levante link in the description. Megabass makes a lot of different series of rods, and the Levante, personally for me, this is becoming probably one of my favorite rods, and it's one of the more, I don't talk about higher or lower end, but it's one of the more price competitive rods. But I really like the feel of it. It's really an attractive rod. and it just feels like butter in my hand. It feels really good. So anyway, hope it helps you out. Hope it simplifies things, and we'll talk later, guys.